So,
I've never used those pedals, so I'm not sure.
There's two of them that I'm looking at. Mic Mechanics 2, which I guess is an upgrade.
Wait, did you say Mike and the Mechanics?
Yeah, Mike and the Mechanics.
Well, if all you need is a miracle, I would go with the Mike and the Mechanics.
Okay, is that the song that they're famous for?
Yeah.
All I need is a miracle. All I need is you. I mean, citizens of Earth, I'm Dan.
And I'm Erik.
Welcome to Accelerativ Thrust podcast, where we discuss and review underground, experimental, and not so underground and experimental music.
Sometimes.
But it's always with a focus on the Iowa and Midwest scene. And I got to tell you, today we are definitely going to discuss some not so much underground and experimental music, and that's okay.
Normalize normalcy.
Normalized normalcy.
That's what I think. And also moralize Morrissey. That would be a good idea too.
Oh, that was a good one.
Geez.
I don't know how anything can follow that one up, Erik.
Yeah, well, just thanks for listening. And,
yeah, that's the show. As far as I'm concerned, that's the show. So I'm out, ladies and gentlemen. So, all right. So I'm gonna move on to my much less funny thing.
Oh, good.
Which I do you remember the drink Icee?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I used to love Icee. Who didn't love Icee?
I love Icees.
Yeah. So there were only 3 flavors that I remember, and that's cherry, blue raspberry, and cola.
Yeah. Yep.
And depending on the day, the weekend that you went, they might not have blue raspberry, but they'll have cola. I used to always have them mix up the cherry and the cola, or the cherry and the blue raspberry.
Well, I never tried that. That's intense.
Yeah, they were both really good. Did you know that, first of all, I came across the Icee website today. Yeah.
Somehow, Dan.
Absolutely.
You're just clicking around, and
I am not going to tell you how I ended up on this Icee website. We're just going to leave that to the imagination. Okay. All right. So I go into this website, and the first thing it says is Icee is America's original fantastic frozen treat.
Indisputable. Indisputable. I mean,
indisputable, yes.
Because no one else even makes a product called that. So.
No one at all. All right. So check this out. So I start looking, and here's flavors and promotions. Did you know that there are several flavors? No one ever told me about this, and I'm very upset with people.
What people? So the people at the movie theater?
No, the Icee people. The people who liked Icees, Icee people.
Icee dead people.
So did you know there's a banana flavored Icee?
No. Was there like a group of Icee fans?
Well, check this out. Funny you mentioned that, Erik. On this website, there's actually I can actually join the Icee family on the website.
Shit. Okay.
There's a family.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, but you got this is unbelievable. You got to hear these flavors, man. Okay. So blood orange. There's a blood orange Icee.
That sounds good.
Blue lemonade.
Wow. Okay.
Made out of blue lemons.
Wow.
The blue raspberry, we talked about that one. Blue strawberry.
Not a thing.
Blue vanilla. Yeah, not a thing. Yep. Blue vanilla.
So like cream soda, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. Like the frosty Nesbits.
Yep. Nesbits.
Boysenberry. There's a boysenberry Icee.
Nice. Wow.
Bubble gum.
Gross. Maybe it's good. I don't know.
Cherry.
Classic.
Cherry lime.
Okay.
Yeah. Cola.
Yeah.
Cola's delicious. cotton candy.
Uh-huh. How many are there?
There's so many. I can't believe this. No one ever.
Is this going to be the whole,
well,
the whole episode?
It's going to have to be now. Frosted lemonade.
Just say it as fast as you can.
Green apple, lemon lime, mango, pineapple, orange, mango, strawberry. Can you believe this? Okay, melon. Now, this is where it gets weird.
Okay.
Melon berry bliss.
Okay. Yeah.
Melon. Okay, now, melon cream. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
I like that.
Check this one out.
Okay.
Mermaid.
What do you call them? Oh, feet.
What?
There's a flavor of Icee's called See, I was building up to something. There's a flavor of Icee called mermaid.
Is it just like aquarium water?
That's what I'm trying to figure. Here, well, let's. The ingredients are high fructose corn syrup, water, citric acid, natural and artificial flavors.
So the natural flavor is just maybe like mermaid.
Yeah, they find
scrapings,
tails. Yeah. Okay, now
mermaid scrapings. That's what
it gets better.
Okay,
it gets better.
Wow, better
they
than
have
mermaid. Yeah.
New frozen drinks now in cookie form. I shit you not. It says this on the website. This new dessert features buttery vanilla wafers filled with sweet Icee flavored cream. Icee flavored cream. Okay, never mind. I guess that's not as
still pretty weird.
Yeah, isn't that weird? So you can get Icee in cookie form, and then you can join the Icee family.
Can they just fill a whole big cup with the cream?
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
But yeah, no, join the Icee family. Oh, okay. You know what the Icee family is?
The Icee family is when I bring up politics at a family reunion.
It is that, but it's also where you can start working for the Icee company.
Like the street team?
Yes, there's street team and they book shows and they, go out and they hand out flyers.
Sticker up the town. Yeah.
Promote on social media, record their podcasts.
Damn. Well, okay. So what do we want to do about this? Do we want to hit them up, see if they'll sponsor?
Yeah.
Send us some mermaid or
I think
blood orange or blood mermaid.
They owe us at least that much, Eric, for not informing us that there's a mermaid Icee flavor.
Yeah, that's true.
So weird. Mermaid Icee flavor. That's literally, there's other flavors, but I just was working my way up to that one.
Working my way up to mermaid.
Through the Icee family.
What else is going on?
You know what else is going on? There's a lot of records out there that are being released by people who are from Iowa and Illinois and all these cool places that are from the Midwest.
It'd be cool if some people or maybe a podcast or something rounded up a bunch of those and reviewed them all at the same time.
Yeah. You know what? That sounds like a great idea for us to do maybe right now. We should try it.
Yeehaw.
You ain't from around here, are you, boy?
What do you think?
Yeah. Let's do the damn thing.
Let's do the damn thing. All right. So you want me to start it off?
Do it.
Okay. So the first local release we're going to talk about is from Monica Austin, and the name of this record is Midwest Mama. Now, I am going to say this. This is kind of out of our wheelhouse a little bit. And what I mean by that is it's something we just normally don't talk about music like this. However, I just couldn't help but be curious. From what I've seen, she is, I am friends with her on Facebook and I do follow her. And I have noticed that she has just been putting in a lot of work with what it is that she does. And I just thought that it would be kind of cool to talk about this record. And also it is kind of cool that this is coming out of Muscatine. This is straight up, I'm going to pull no punches here. Straight up, pop country, I think. It's not something that I don't listen to a lot of this kind of country, but I also think that it's very, very well done. And in fact, I will say that as far as I can tell, this is possibly, honestly, the most professional sounding recording that I've heard coming from this area. This is just very well done. I mean, this literally sounds like it could be on the radio, and it is on the radio around here. But I do know that Monica has been going out and touring, and I believe that she's going to Texas and playing some festivals and has opened up for some fairly big names in country. And so I can't knock the hustle there by any means. So yeah, this is legitimately a professional presentation. From a local artist, and that in itself is very impressive. One of the things that maybe a lot of people don't know about me is I actually really like country music, and I like a lot of different kinds of country music. I don't listen to it often, as I mentioned. However, when something catches my ear, it just catches my ear. And so I like some of the modern day pop country. But of course, my favorite country is a lot of the classics. We're talking like Hank Williams, we're talking Johnny Cash and all of that stuff. But I also like some Dwight Yoakam. And then when it comes to like maybe some more recent stuff, I like some of the stuff that I've heard. I guess this is not too recent, but I like some of the stuff that I've even heard from like Kenny Chesney and whatnot. But anyway, the songs on here are really great. I also do think that there is, and when I say modern pop country, there is also, I think, a straight up homage to some of the legendary older country as well. I mean, the opening track is called 90s Country. And it's kind of about how Monica wants to hear more of the kind of country that was, maybe big in the 90s, which I assume that's probably just sort of coming from a place that's what she grew up listening to. I think a lot of the lyrical content on here is kind of just about overcoming obstacles in her life. I think in some parts it's fairly vulnerable, but also kind of feisty. It is pretty slick, but not in a bad way. I think this is just what she does and what she's passionate about. You can hear the hard work in her voice, in the music, as well as the passion. And this is, like I said, kind of out of my wheelhouse for sure, but I can totally appreciate this. And I think it's just really cool that there's somebody from my hometown that is doing this, but also making it happen. Like I said, I know she's going on the road, and like I said, there's definitely a professionalism that is, you just can't knock here. And songs are really good. I think if you're really into this kind of country music, you're gonna really, really like it. As far as the stuff that I can sort of do a recommended if you like, and some of these comparisons may or may not be completely accurate, but I heard definitely a little bit of like Miranda Lambert, Ellie King, some Carrie Underwood, but also, when we talk about sort of the homage to some of the past musical artists, Dolly Parton, Shania Twain, Loretta Lynn all kind of comes in mind, but also, like I mentioned, Kenny Chesney. There's also sort of, some really great songwriting here, I think, too. And so I consider like Jason Isbell, for example, who was once in the Drive-By Truckers, a really great songwriter in the country music world. And so I think anybody who's into country, I think you could probably find something that you like here. So Monica Austin, Midwest Mama. What did you think, Erik?
I, believe it or not, have a soft spot for this kind of stuff. Sometimes I act like a big old elite person, and like I only listen to avant-garde stuff and blah, blah, blah. But I came from the same place as probably just about everyone listening to this show, So I spent a lot of time in different places listening to different things. There was a good portion of time before I left Muscatine and after high school. I hung out with my cousins a lot, and I listened to a lot of country during that time. So like basically, I don't know, 3, 4, even 5 years of listening to Brooks and Dunn and Diamond Rio and all that stuff. And yeah, I especially a lot of the female artists of that time, I really like them a lot. So anyway, Monica Austin has a great voice. These are really good songs. She knows exactly who she's writing for, and that is something that is not easy to do, you know. And it just feels like she's writing to people that she knows and people that she relates with and identifies with. The band doesn't really seem like Nashville players to me, and I'm not saying they're not good. What I'm saying is it's not perfection. It has a grungy kind of feel to it at times. The guitars are not just the same old kind of Nashville Telecaster chicken picking kind of stuff. This has a bit of an edge to it. And, you know, the record starting with the song 90s Country really sets the mood, and it really informs you of what you're hearing and what the intention is. And there's a lot of little clues and Easter eggs and mentions about 90s country, little, you know, things in that song. And I think that's really cool. But yeah, it is like radio country, but it's not like a lot of the modern country I've heard where like it's almost indistinguishable from like hip hop in a lot of ways. Like this isn't like that. I think this really is rooted in that. And it's funny because we talk about like classic country, and for Monica Austin and people her age and stuff, the 90s is classic country. So
good point.
I think that is the approach here. You know, I don't think this is trying to sound like Old Country Road at all. It doesn't have any interest in that. And kind of like the people that were hearkening back to older times in the 90s, say like Dwight Yoakam or the Mavericks, things like that. That's kind of what's happening here too, you know, and I think that's really cool. But yeah, these, like I said, are anthems for Midwest mamas. That is the name of the record, and that is the intended audience, and it nails it. And this is not a knock, and I'm not making fun, but I've spent nights, I can't remember very much of them, but a lot of nights at Kermit's / Mad Marv's in Fruitland, and this stuff would go over so well there. These are straight up anthems, and I think it's cool. Like I said, I have a soft spot for this stuff. There are certain songs from that era by female artists that rank incredibly high on my favorite songs lists, like 18 Wheels and a Dozen Roses, Strawberry Wine. Someday Soon is one of the best songs ever. She's in Love with the Boy, stuff like that. I think it's really amazing stuff. And I don't talk about it that much because it really never comes up. So with that being said, I think this was really good. And she's working hard for it, and it shows, and it's cool. Things that it reminded me of, I don't know, musically, honestly, I feel like this was closer to like aspects of, I don't know, Alanis Morissette than it was country. Like I really do think the guitars they have a distortion to them, not like heavy by any means, but it's grimy for what it is. And that comes through, and it's just a band playing songs. And I think that's cool. As far as vocally, I think Leanne Rimes or people of that era, maybe even Martina McBride or Dina Carter, stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is cool, and it's fun to listen to stuff like this and be able to talk about it because we usually don't. So yeah, good pick.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because I just now kind of thought about this. You know, you've actually been in a couple of bands that sort of lean towards, you know, not country, but you know, like the old Scratch Revival singers and stuff, Erik. Mm-hmm. You know, and so it totally makes sense to me that you went through a period of time where you listened to a lot of country. That's pretty interesting.
Well, you know, like I've said before, everything we take in as musicians and songwriters, everything we take in gets filtered through us and comes back out.
Absolutely.
And so that stuff is always there, whether it be just the way songs are arranged or the way melodies move or just sounds themselves. Like you never lose any of that. It may not be obvious, but it's all inside you still.
The dark side is always there.
So now for something completely different, as they say. We're going to talk about a project called Bleaken. Bleaken is out of Storm Lake, Iowa. Oh my gosh, hold on. Oh my gosh.
What?
Okay.
What?
I clicked on Bleaken and it started playing in my headphones. Oh, and it scared me. Sorry.
I didn't hear it.
So anyway, that gives you kind of an idea of what Bleaken
What
does.
it is, yeah.
The reaction that I just had. So Bleaken is from Storm Lake, Iowa. The artist's name is Betty Coster. Bleaken is intense. Bleaken is not easy to listen to. This track consists, this album consists of 3 tracks. The album, I need to mention, is called The Long Bitter Winter. And 3 tracks. The first one is 42 minutes long, second is 35, and the third track is 28 minutes long. So these are obviously long form pieces. The Long Bitter Winter is a perfect title for this. I feel like this is maybe the sound of being stuck in a blizzard and basically the icy wind is shredding off your skin, I guess is the way I might put it. But yeah, so these are long ambient noise drone pieces. They spend a lot of time in the space that they're in. They really let you sort of just live in that space for a long time. That's not to say they don't change. Over the course of the tracks, there are huge changes. Sometimes imperceptible because of how slowly everything moves. It's like glacial, it moves really slow. It has a horror element to the whole thing, and not horror like subject matter or singing about scary things or even making scary noises. There's like an existential dread to this music. It's like, I don't know. It's like when you read or even just think about Lovecraft and you think about how crazy you would actually go if you saw some of the gods or monsters in those stories. And it has like a realistic feel to it. You can put yourself in it. Anyway, I know this is a lot of crazy words to try to describe music, but it lends itself to that because it doesn't really guide you in any way. It's just harsh and intense and long and scary. I don't have any other words for it, but the noise is to the level that it's almost on the verge of static at times, like literally white noise. Very heavy mood and atmosphere, like hard to describe. Dark and icy, just rolling waves of tension and dread. I know I'm not really selling this right now. This sounds like a bad experience, but it's truly not. It's pretty mind-blowing that someone could stay this committed to the feeling and the idea through the length of these tracks. And it shows a really mature and just intense level of commitment. And I don't know what else to say about it. That's about it. Stuck in a blizzard, flesh ripping off. It, to me, reminds me of things like Merzbow, Granular Breath, who's Brian Barr from Icee, Throbbing Gristle, Wolf Eyes, some stuff like that. But I love this, and I've been trying to work this into being reviewed on our show for a long time now, because I just can't get over how original and intentional and committed it all is. It's just a really cool project. And I wish I knew more about it, but I don't. So anyway, what do you think, Dan?
Yep. You pretty much just nailed it down. I'm in pretty much total agreement with you. Everything that you said, terror, drone, noise, ambient, frightening. This is going to sound really maybe kind of stupid.
Very stupid.
But what it reminded me of was that scene in the movie Tango and Cash, where Tango was trying to escape the prison, and he ended up, or maybe it was Cash, I don't remember which one. Kurt Russell, Sylvester Stallone, I don't remember which one it was. Went through this area, and there was this fan that was like at the bottom of this hill of like water, basically like a waterfall. And he was for a minute, it looked like he was gonna like go down this like waterfall type thing and then get chopped up by the fan. That whole time the fan was going, and I'm not saying that that's what this whole thing was like, but it's kind of what most of it was like. Hence the sitting in a blizzard with your flesh getting ripped off. This definitely was an intense experience. It is mind-blowing that somebody was committed to making this, for sure. What I really liked about it was the sense of mystery that's behind it. Like, who is Bleaken? There's like an element of mystery to this whole project. And maybe that's just because I haven't looked into it much, but it's very hypnotic. Like, I will tell you that. Like, I sat here listening to it with my eyes closed, and I was like in a trance. I mean, it's really that intense. It really does take you to another place like that. And today was the perfect weather, it turns out, to finish listening to it. I actually had to listen to it in segments because, as you said, it's 3 tracks, and the first track is like 42 minutes long. Everything that you said, it reminded you of Merzbow, Wolf Eyes, Throbbing Gristle. I would also say it really reminded me of the Melvins album, Colossus of Destiny, which is the one noise album they did with Adam Jones from Tool. And I guess they have a couple of other noise albums too, but that's the big one. Yeah, if you're into drone, noise, ambient music, that's what this is. Oh, Granular Breath too. I definitely heard similarities to that as well. And yes, shout out to Brian. But yeah, Bleaken, the long bitter winter, and it sounded like a long bitter winter for sure. That's what it sounded like, and also getting chopped up by a fan in an action movie from the 80s.
Yeah. Nice.
So, and I apologize for my really horrible description of that Tango and Cash.
No, I don't know if I've ever seen Tango and Cash, and now I'm going to, because if it made you think of Bleaken, then I mean, it's got to be good.
It's kind of I feel like it might be one of those movies where you had to see it kind of when it was out to appreciate it. Because I could see how some of the stuff in it might be a little outdated now, but it's straight up probably is my favorite 80s action movie about really irresponsible cops who overstep their boundaries and misuse their power all the time and never seem to be in uniform when they're doing it. So how could these people know they're cops?
I just this whole time I thought you were talking about Turner and Hooch.
Oh, that's another example. That's a light example.
Wow, there's a really intense fan death scene in Turner and Hooch.
Is Turner and Hooch, is that the one where Tom Hanks is in that one, right?
Yeah, and some kind of dog.
Yeah, there's I do remember there was one scene where he goes into a bar and he brings the dog in with him and has the dog six the dog on the guy's balls to make him talk. You remember that?
I don't even know if I've seen Turner and Hooch.
You've never seen Turner and Hooch?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I'll just stop talking about 80s action movies then. I do recommend, if you're into that kind of stuff, I do recommend not Turner and Hooch. I recommend Tango and Cash.
Okay.
Tango and Cash and Turner, Tango and Hooch.
Yeah.
Turner and Cash.
Cash and Hooch. That's what I'm all about.
Cash and Hooch. That's a good one right there. And all the Lethal Weapons.
I'm into those too.
At least
the movies, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah. Hooch, Cash, and Lethal Weapons.
Lethal Weapons. All right, so I guess that leads us to Marc Hans Showalter.
Sure.
Broken Wheels. This is a new EP from Marc Hans Showalter. I believe he is residing in the Quad Cities right now. I've known Mark for a little while now. He used to play in some bands with a guy named MJ Dunlap from Muscatine, Iowa. He was in Rosalie Motor Revival, which was a side project from this band called Burn Ends. But Mark has always done solo stuff. And he's always had a pretty interesting take, I think, on the sort of, I hate to use this description, but I really honestly can't think of any other way to say it, but sort of folky singer-songwriter genre, I guess, because I don't know what else to really describe this as. I don't know, indie rock maybe? I'm not really sure, but it's just a few really, really good songs, as Mark's presentation always is on his records. And there's always quite a few different instruments, a little bit of instrumentation going on, like some piano, some acoustic guitar. There's some I think a violin, maybe an organ or two. I'm not really 100% sure what's all on here, but it does look like it, at least some of it is also a collaboration with Sky Carrasco, I believe. Do you know who that is, Erik?
I most definitely do.
You do know.
Talk about that more when
Okay. So I do believe that this record was in collaboration with her, at least. I'm not sure if the whole record is or not, but nonetheless, Mark has a very cool voice. He's got a twang to it, kind of, and kind of a somewhat of a quirkiness to it that it really kind of puts me in mind of Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse a little bit, or Doug Marsh from Built to Spill, or a little bit of maybe Bonnie Prince Billy or Will Oldham, as he's also known. But yeah, the songs are just really well written. You know, there's definitely kind of a bedroom recording feel to it. I wouldn't call this lo-fi, but there definitely is maybe somewhat of that feeling to it a little bit. The stuff that this reminds me of, well, as I mentioned earlier, Will Oldham for sure. I think there was definitely a little bit of Bright Eyes, a little bit of Jim Sullivan, some of the Elephant Six stuff a little bit, like Neutral Milk Hotel, Mountain Goats, stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say about this except that I think it's really good. And Mark, if you're listening, great job as always. If you're into sort of the singer-songwriter solo type side of indie rock, I think that this is exactly what that's going for, and this is exactly what that is achieving. What did you think, Erik?
Yeah, I was pretty blown away by this. I knew Mark when I was younger, and then we sort of reconnected a couple years ago at a show in the Quad Cities. But yeah, I think this is just very squarely freak folk, and it's, you know, of the highest order. I would put it up against any of the other freak folkers. It's mellow, but it takes a lot of risks. There's a lot of strange sounds that permeate through this whole release. It keeps you ungrounded, which is kind of nice. You never know what's going to happen next. And it just adds to the arrangements, which are also really inventive and really cool. Great instrumentation throughout, a lot of cool synths. I mean, there's just, you know, the acoustic guitar sounds great. But yeah, Sky is also on this. Sky is a good friend of mine, and she played in a band with me, Old Scratch, for quite a long time. We've played.
Oh, she was in Old Scratch.
Yeah, and we've played in other projects, and we've worked together, and she's great. She's an amazing violinist. She's also has an amazing voice, and she's really creative and inventive with just soundscapes and stuff. And I'm not sure if some of the more strange sounds and things like that were Sky's doing, or if she just added violin. I'm not sure her level of involvement, but if you can have Sky involved in your project, then you are lucky, and it's just going to enhance what you're already doing. But yeah, she sounds great on this. Marc has a really nice voice, like really, really nice and enjoyable, and also interesting, like not nice in a boring way, nice in like you want to hear him sing more, and that's really cool. I got nothing but confidence from this recording. Just like, this is someone who knows exactly what they're doing and exactly how they want to do it, and it's just really good. Yeah, I don't really have other things other than what you said. I heard Bright Eyes, I heard Neutral Milk Hotel, Elliott Smith, maybe some older stuff like Nick Drake or whatever. And yeah, I think if you're into any of that stuff, then this is just a really, really cool release, and you're going to like it.
Fantastic stuff for sure.
Nice. All right. So the next one comes to us from Jack Christensen. Jack is also a good friend of mine. I swear this isn't just a podcast where we review our friends, but it doesn't hurt. So, you know. But yeah, Jack and I are good friends, have been for a long time. This record is called It Looks Different at Night, came out just now. And Jack's been working on it for quite a long time. And I think it has to do with just real life, you know? He's a busy guy. And so he's been wanting to do this for a while, and he has done it, and it's awesome. And I'm glad he has it out, and we all get to hear it. Jack played bass in the beat strings, and that part of this record, I think you can hear. The bass lines are really cool, and they move, and he's beyond proficient at that. But the bass, I don't really think, is the star of the show here. There's a couple of competing elements that could easily be said that it's the focal point, but Jack's voice is really cool, and he does a lot of different things with it. I guess I should talk about the music before that, though, so we kind of have a foundation for it. So this is surprising to me, because Jack coming out of the beat strings, that's really what I expected to hear when he put this out. Instead, it is like dark wave. It's like, I don't even know how to say it, like early indie dark wave stuff. It's like almost verging on goth, but it's not that obvious. But yeah, his voice works really well for it. He does, it's almost like a baritone crooner type thing at times, a hushed sort of hidden kind of vocal, if that makes any sense. He just does this so well and with such conviction that it's amazing. I don't ever remember having a conversation with him about this type of music, and obviously we should have, because he loves it, and you can hear it. This is basically a love letter to early indie, no wave, dark wave stuff, but with a pop sort of element to it. He's not afraid of a good melody. He's not afraid of a good hook. So yeah, there's some other people that are on this. Nalani Proctor does some vocals on it, which is cool. Landon Strauss, also from the beat strings, plays drums on a couple things. And so there's a lot of good people on this, and they're all committed to what this is. And it was surprising, and it's really amazing, and I like it a lot. Things that it reminds me of, honestly, put on the Donnie Darko soundtrack. I don't know, like that is where a lot of this is coming from. Echo and the Bunny, not that soundtrack, but that era and that style. Echo and the Bunnymen, In Excess, The Church, The Cure, Joy Division, just a lot of stuff like that. So I would say if you're into that sort of dark wave sort of pop indie moment in time, then you're not going to do any better than this. And yeah, and it's great. And I'm really stoked that Jack is putting this music out. What do you think, Dan?
I thought this was extraordinary. This was absolutely amazing. I was actually really blown away by this release. I did not realize that Jack Christensen was in the beat strings with Landon. And knowing that Landon played on this makes a lot of sense because, I mean, the instrumentation, as you mentioned, is just phenomenal. But like you said, Erik, while he is definitely an amazing bass player, there are definitely some other elements to this that I think kind of define it maybe a little bit more. I am in agreement with you about the dark wave element. I definitely think, especially early on in the record, I feel like Jack's voice definitely had that sort of gothic element to it. But I do have maybe a slightly different take on it, in that what this really reminded me of overall is, and this is just kind of a hodgepodge of words, genres like mashed together, but the best way that I could really describe this would be like synth grunge indie power pop. Like, in a lot of the songs had that dark wave gothic element, but I also think that there was also kind of this quirkiness to it as well, that and I know I've been using that word quite a bit in these reviews, but I don't know, there were times where his voice, like you kind of mentioned, that he does a lot of things with his voice, and I kind of feel there were times where he would kind of almost like, I don't know if I would say change the style of his voice, but there were a few songs on here where he would sound like as you mentioned, Robert Smith, or, you know, something along those lines. But then there were other times where I would say he had almost like a Jeff Magnum meets Doug Marsh quality to it a little bit. So that kind of brings in the indie rock side of things, I think. So I think that there was kind of like two different holes that kind of came together to make this one cohesive sound, if that makes any sense. And that's what I think is just really extraordinary about it for me, is that it was just I don't know, I kind of feel like, for me anyway, I heard like kind of a melding of like power pop, like you said, like early indie rock, but also a little bit of the guitars were a little bit grungy to me as well. And then this sort of gothic element that you mentioned as well. And overall, it was just really great. There was sort of this reverb on the guitar, which I think also kind of added just a slight psychedelic element, a little bit. But I don't know, the stuff that this really overall reminded me of was Apples and Stereo, The Rentals, Brainiac, a little bit of Ty Segall, and even a little bit of Sound Science. So,
cool.
But then also I could also totally see Joy Division, and I could see how this could remind somebody of all of those as well. Even like New Order to a certain extent, or even like a dark wave Weezer. Like, you know, because some of these songs were straight up just catchy, and I think Jack was unapologetically embracing a power pop side, like straight up. The songs were catchy, the songs were great. Yeah, man, I was blown away by this. Yeah, really, really great pick, man. Really great pick.
Sweet.
And it makes so much sense knowing that he was a member of the Beat Strings as well. Also, I had no idea that Nalani Proctor was on this record as well.
Pretty cool.
That's really cool. Okay, all right. So next up is Why Bother? Lacerated Nights. This is amazing to me. I really loved this. I'm very, very curious what you heard in this as well, Erik, because so just a little bit of a behind the scenes look here. We actually were originally going to review a release that they put out called There Are Such Things, but then Erik found out that that was more of a B-sides collection. So I actually ended up listening. And did you listen to There Are Such Things as well, Erik?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Okay, and so we both ended up listening to There Are Such Things, but then we decided to do Lacerated Nice because that was more of an actual album. But what I got to say, and the reason why I brought that up is because I kind of feel like what I heard and There Are Such Things also kind of, I want to mention a couple things about that in relation to this band as a whole. But Lacerated Nights, the first thing that I'm going to say is that I had a blast listening to this record. I think that it's really fun, and maybe that's not what the intention is, but to me, some of it seemed pretty tongue-in-cheek. It did seem like there was a sense of humor at hand, but also kind of an angst a little bit as well. The best way that I could really sort of describe this music would be, it's a blend of like synth punk, garage, surf, and horror punk. So again, it's kind of a bunch of different things, sort of like the Jack Christensen record, although this is quite a bit of a different thing than that record was. One thing that I really enjoyed is the vocalist, I think, had a really just rad voice. What I really liked about it was that there was a reverb on his voice that just totally sounded, I can't think of any other way to describe it but insane. I really, really just liked the way that the vocals were on this entire record. So one of the things that I want to say is that vocally, he kind of reminded me of, I don't know, like Jay Reatard or Ty Segall, and sort of like garagey stuff. I mean, that's kind of the best description that I can think of, or maybe even like a little bit of like Iggy Pop, which I think there were elements of that going on in the music as well. On some of the songs that were on the other release, and I'm sorry, I don't want to turn this into a review of both, but I just want to say that there were some things that reminded me of like, had kind of a snarly quality that reminded me a little bit of like Mark Arm and Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth, which I think this record, this band actually kind of had like a Mudhoney feel to me a little bit, as well as all the other things that I mentioned. Musically, it just touches on so many elements of rock music. I think that there's some organ going on, definitely some synths, which I think that adds the horror punk element to it. So as unfamiliar as I am with the Cramps and even the Misfits to a certain extent, I could probably see how somebody could find comparisons with that going on here. This definitely is just straight up a rock record, but definitely has I feel, just not giving a fuck attitude in a lot of ways. And I don't mean that in terms of it's a really tight performance. It's not don't give a fuck in a sloppy sense, but it's just kind of like they just seem not to really care how the music is coming out and the perceptions that people may have about the music. There definitely is like almost kind of a, I don't know, a middle fingeredness to it, I guess you could say. And that's what I think is really cool. Some of the things that I found in common, like the recommended if you'd like, are not necessarily because I think that they remind me of the band per se, but just the attitude, I guess you could say, for lack of a better way to describe it. But Ty Segall, Jay Reatard, as I mentioned, especially the band Lost Sounds, which we reviewed a record of theirs way back when. That was one of our earlier episodes. As I mentioned, Mudhoney, I would definitely say Sonic Youth, the Stooges, the band Human Eye. And yeah, a lot of stuff. And I'm just kind of, I can't think of all of them, but we've reviewed a pretty, I guess like Cherry Cheeks kind of comes to mind, like some of that sort of angsty garage rock stuff or whatever. But we've reviewed a fair amount of that stuff, I feel, on this podcast. So any of that stuff, I think you would really, anybody who's into that stuff, I think would really enjoy it. And while Lacerated Nights is the album, I also do think that there are such things as fantastic. And I'm sorry to kind of make my review about both of them, but I just sort of like, I really enjoyed both of them. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there that I think both were really, really great listens.
Yeah.
What did you think, Erik?
Yeah, this was so cool. Like I don't know, like you said, this is antagonistic in its own way. Like they make it clear, not just with the music and how it's made and the attitude of the music, but even the write-up of the, the record or whatever. Like it's like we make music for ourselves and we don't promote it online and we don't really care what you think and we're not going to play live. And it's just like, it's right there. The attitude is there. And luckily they can back it up. The music is also there. It's so cool. It's like this awesome dark edged 77 style punk, but also with a lot of synthesizer. Like, I mean, it's a huge part of the sound, and not like in a fun way, like in a brooding kind of dark way, like almost like organs at a lot of times, it can be lazy and plodding at times, which just adds to that sort of irreverence. It can be really fast at times, but still retain that kind of laid backness. Really cool sounds on everything. The guitars have the perfect tone. The bass has the perfect tone. The drums, they're tight where they need to be, and they're loose and kind of tribal when they need to be. This, like I said, the synth is so cool throughout. This just is one of those things that seems to have come out of nowhere, but obviously from somewhere. This is very referential to cool shit from the past, but also like, where did this come from? Why? This is from Mason City, and why have we never heard of this? And you know what I mean? Like, I guess they've been around for a couple of years. They put out a few things now. I think this is the second full length. But some other releases and things like that, like the tape we talked about, There Are Such Things, which was amazing. When I listened to that and then I read the liner notes, I was kind of like, oh, this seems to be sort of like a B-side or like rarities kind of comp or whatever. And I wanted to cover something that was more of a full-length release. So that's why we went back and did the Lacerated Nights. But the tape is super cool in its own way. Like it is, when I was listening to it, it reminded me exactly of the local punk stuff I heard when I was growing up, and you would get a tape from somewhere and it'd be like, oh shit, this band's cool. Like Bloody Nose was a band I had a tape from the Quad Cities, and I listened to it until I wore the tape out. And this has that sort of element to it. This is very lo-fi, DIY, yet amazingly thought out and played. And I can't really say enough about it. Like, I really enjoyed this. And I don't know, especially on the other cassette, it's like lo-fi to the point that the recording device becomes almost its own instrument. Like, yeah, the sound of the tape and the hiss and all of that is just as important almost as anything actually being played. And it all just has this attitude, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot else to say about it. Just really cool songs, great performances, untouchable vibe. Things that it reminded me of the darker side of early punk. So like The Damned, like Phantasmagoria, that album, that era of The Damned, and even earlier stuff too, is like, as far as the speed and the sounds and stuff, a lot like The Damned. Jay Retard, like you said, especially vocally, TSOL, Killing Joke, Chelsea, the surfiness of the Plugs, Zero Boys, Mommy's Little Monster era Social D, which is that sounds weird, but I heard a bit of early Mike Ness in the vocals a little bit too. Sort of the Attitude of Dead Moon. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to the shit out of this tape, and the rest of them too, because it was just so cool. And I don't know if they'd ever hear this or respond to it or whatever, but I would love to hear from these guys and try to start to understand where this all came from. So
absolutely
amazing.
And, like, their whole thing is why bother, you know?
Right.
And so, like, and that is a fitting name for a band if I've ever heard one, man.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not putting any sort of negative. It's not in a negative way either. I just feel like we're just going to do this thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the vibe that I'm getting. It really is amazing. It truly is everything that Eric's saying about how amazing it is. It truly is. Yeah. I can't say enough good things about it, honestly.
Yeah. Yep.
I really can't. Okay. So that then moves on to the last release that we're going to talk about. And this is a single. So this is just one song, and it's literally about 2 minutes and 8 seconds long. And it is one of the catchiest songs that I've heard coming from a Muscatine band. I mean, we just talked about Monica Austin, who is definitely doing some catchy songs as well. The other side of that's going on in Muscatine right now, there definitely is something in the water in Muscatine, it seems like. Everybody's just being catchy these days. That's not a bad thing. Eugene Levy. So these guys, I know two members of Eugene Levy, and that's Brian Noel Martinez, who's the singer, really, really nice guy. And then Brian Taylor, but also known as Brian Wilson, who he's actually been in bands. He's kind of a veteran of the music scene. He used to be in the band Valen from a long time ago. I don't know if you remember them or not, Erik. Mm-hmm. And he also was in a band I remember called Exit 212. I'm really showing my age here because this was literally like late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, this is just unbelievably catchy. Like this is so very well produced. Performance is stellar. Songwriting is stellar. Brian has an amazing voice for this style of music. Their guitar player, who I believe is Cameron, fantastic guitar tone. I mean, it is really just well done. Drums are great. And I mean, this is, again, just like Monica Austin, this stuff, and they actually they've also been making some waves as well. I know that this song and at least 3 of their other songs are played regularly on the radio station in Muscatine. And yeah, they're getting out there and doing it, man. This is just a really, really well done slab of pop punk, and there really is not much more that I can say about it. This is the sound of a band knowing exactly what they're going for, and they're clearly passionate about this kind of stuff and clearly proud of it. So yeah, it's really cool stuff if you're into this kind of thing. I mean, some of the things that it reminds me of, and this is maybe gonna sound a little, I might be using some of the most dated examples because I love pop punk, but I haven't really admittedly delved into much past, I don't know, I'm going to say probably the year 2002 when it comes to like pop punk. But New Found Glory comes to mind, Blink 182 a little bit to a certain extent, Saves the Day, some Reggie and the Full Effect, maybe a little bit of the Get Up Kids. I would also say that I don't think that it would be too out of the ordinary for someone who likes the Death Kill Overdrive album to also like Eugene Levy as well. Yeah, it's just really well done pop punk. They haven't put out an official album or like a full length. I think they put out an EP a few years ago, but they keep dropping singles, which, you know, in this day and age, that might be the smartest way to go about it anyway. So I can't fault them for that. It clearly what they're doing is working, and yeah. So Eugene Levy, really well done pop punk. What do you think, Erik?
Yeah, in this case, I don't have a lot to add, mostly because my lack of knowledge regarding pop punk. Like, I don't know much about it, and I haven't listened to very much of it. But I can say that this is super tight and super clean and catchy, and yeah, like I have to say catchy again because it really is just super catchy and poppy. Tons of energy. It never lets up. Yeah, it's upbeat, but it still has an edge to it. It's not like cheesy ska or something, like it has an edge to it. It's fast and heavy in its own way, but super, super fun. I wish I had more to say about it. It's also hard to hear, a lot of distinctions between what the songwriting that they do is and the instrumentation and the playing, because this is just one track. So yeah, that kind of limits my understanding of where this is coming from. I don't really have the same kind of reference points as I would with a full length, but I will say it's super well done. I've heard a lot about these guys, not just from people that know them. Like they're doing a lot and working it. It's really cool. I even have less comparisons than you would. I would say things that I've heard, the Ataris, less than Jake, maybe. Yeah, I have very, very little experience in all that, but I would say if that's your thing, and yeah, Death Kill Overdrive for sure, cut from the same cloth, and if that's your sort of thing, then there's no way you're not gonna like this. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff. There's a lot of really, really great stuff going on in the Midwest music scene right now. I just want to remind everyone, all you listeners out there, if you're in a band or, you know of a band from this area or anywhere, it doesn't even have to be from this area, because we definitely talk about national acts as well. But particularly for the local roundup episodes, if you know of any bands or in one and you want us to you think we should be talking about them, send them our way. Hit us up on Instagram or Facebook. Those are the two places where we're at. And I don't know if you've tried the Mermaid Icee, let me know what it's like.
Sure, I would like to hear about that as well.
Yeah, that is something I almost think we should do an Icee episode. And I wouldn't mind actually talking to the guy who runs the Icee. Like, we should suspend our music show for one episode just to talk to the Icee guy and find out what.
Now, which Icee guy?
Well, there's got to be a guy who's behind the whole thing, right?
Oh, you mean Mr. Icee, the guy that owns
Mr.
It.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, I would just like to talk to the guy, and then also I would love to get sponsorship from Icee.
Right.
So yeah,
I'm technically a polar bear, so that works out. Anyway, I've gone too far again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when have we not gone too far on our excursions, our weekly excursions, Erik?
Yeah, our weekly excursions into the mind.
The mind of the Midwest. The mind of the Midwest and the Icee machines.
I don't want to be in the mind of the Midwest.
I mean, we kind of are, though, aren't we?
Maybe the music,
the music mind?
Yeah.
The sound mind. Or of sound mind.
Sound mind. Oh, yeah. Man, that's a good one.
Yeah, of sound mind. Accelerativ Thrust. Of sound mind.
Wow. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. It's not bad. Well, that's my contribution for the week to society. What about you, Erik? Do you got anything else bubbling up? Anything else you want to tell our I don't know, the Icee guy before we leave or something?
Yeah, actually, I love Icees, and I always have, but I do have to say it is almost heartbreaking when you suck all the flavor out. And then you just have to eat all that slightly flavored ice with the spoon straw. It's like kind of a traumatic experience. And so I guess I would like to ask Mr. Icee if there's any way you could just have flavor all the time. And I know it's my fault for drinking it so fast, right? And just drinking all the flavor, because you can drink it slow and stir in the flavor, and then you can do it. But I don't want to get upset about it, but it's just like it's a sad thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Mr. Icee thinks about how it makes people feel.
That also reminds me, I'd also like to have a word with Mr. Snow Cone also. So, because that's even worse. That's even more heartbreaking when you have a snow cone and because it literally does just turn to like plain ice when you suck all the flavor out of the snow cone. At least with the Icee, you have somewhat. I don't really need to talk to Mr. Tropical Snow or Hawaiian Shaved Ice, because I figured out a way.
That shit on there.
And I've really figured out a way to make sure that I still have all the sticky sweet goodness.
So if you want to know Dan's Tropical Snow secrets, go ahead and reach out to us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think that covered pretty much everything for this week. Don't you, Eric?
We talked about Icees, snow cones.
Boy, when you put it like that,
music. We talked about.
Okay. I was going to say, because when you put it like that, it felt like that was the only thing we covered.
Other than music, I think that might be it.
That might be it. Yeah, that might just be it.
Well,
all right.
It's an icy day. We basically got tropical snow to pond today. So
yeah,
it's in the air.
All right, Mr. Icee and everybody else who's listening, thank you for tuning in, and we'll hopefully you'll hear from us next week if you decide to tune in again. Have a good one.
Bye.
Goodbye. Green apple, lemon, lime, mango, pineapple, orange, mango, strawberry. Can you believe this?